Welcome to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. We introduce you to the voices of community thought leaders and change makers who are working on solutions that face our fellow individual community members, neighborhoods, cities, and our region. This is George Coster, your host.
Whatever your heart desires to escape, we will provide for you. Oh, but you in the suit had a question. Oh, you want fresh, clean water? Man, you see, now that's the good stuff. That'll cost you. For someone in your financial position, it'd be much more cost effective for y'all to simply get a pool full of cheap liquor and then dive in it. Anyway, on to our next display. Here to our right, we have our cafeteria. Our employees receive calories for salaries. They get all the snacks, chips, candy, ice cream, soda a person could ever want. And if that doesn't satisfy your needs, no need to fret. We have our never-ending dollar menu and top ramen cuisine, which is sure to hit that palate just right. Oh, but you in the nice dress shirt had a question. Oh, you want fresh fruits and vegetables? And me too, man, how cute. You see, I think you may have us mistaken for our location just a bit farther north of March Lane. But anyway, this tour must go on. You see, to our left, we have our local recreation facility. It's oftentimes empty due to risk of injury from fellow residents. And to our right, we have a local community resource center. But it's also times empty due to the fact that people don't trust who or what lies inside. But here you'll see that our community has none of our homes above ground. It's because our community better embraces those that are 6 feet deep. So we get you started early. But what you will notice is our lavish plush lawns of green is made of an enticing combination of cush and cash because nothing better accompanies a high than consumerism. But no need to fret. Here we have our crown jewel of them all, our brand new school. Here, we'll give your students a quality education because we'll give them experienced teachers who are so burnt out by all the problems that we tell them to ignore that they just don't care anymore. But we'll also give them books and computers, but not the necessary education requirements for them to be able to attend college. Because, who would want to leave this beautiful place anyway? Here we built a self-sufficient system that we rarely have any vacancies because no one ever leaves. They just continue to refuel this machine. My fault. Re-inhabit our communities. So as stated, welcome to 6th Nightingale. Unfortunately, we don't have any vacant. Everybody, please calm down. No need to worry. We just, every single Saturday, we have a reenactment of 2017 and 16 and 15 and 14. But I think you get the picture. We have a young black boy who just got gunned down by police. But it appears now that we have a vacancy. That is until gentrification hits. So would you like to move in now or just maybe a little bit later?
Nicely done.
Thank you, Brandon. That was a wonderful spoken word piece. Brandon is featured in episode 11 of the documentary that we just put together from Bankruptcy to Reinvention, the City of Stockton. It's on my website, georgecoster.com. Hopefully all of you have had a chance to take a listen. There's 12 wonderful parts. This will be our 13th episode today. So I want to welcome everybody to the community convening. It's our town hall event today. In the process, just a quick backstory, in the process of putting together the episodes that go back from June to September of 2016, and I put all of the episodes together the last 2+ years. I came to the conclusion that all the information was really wonderful, but we really wanted to update it. So our goal today was to bring all of the folks who participated in the documentary series on stage, and they'll be in our second panel today. And working closely with Nicholas Hatten, who I'm now going to introduce, we decided that we also wanted to use the opportunity of the community convening to also share the voices of our youth leaders as well. So I'm going to introduce Nicholas Hatten. I think most of everyone knows Nicholas. Nicholas I met through Bill and Mindy Waxwell in the summer of 2016 when my mom, who's a longtime South Stockton resident was passing away, and I was talking to them about what's going on in Stockton. They mentioned Michael Tubbs' activities, things he was doing, Nicholas, and so sat down, 3 years ago this month, Nicholas, to have this conversation about putting together a documentary. And so this is the conclusion of all of that work, and I hope you all enjoy the opportunity to hear wonderful voices today. Nicholas?
How are we doing, Stockton? I'm so honored to be here. I can't believe it's been 3 years. I remember getting a couple emails from Wendy asking if I could meet with George Coster. And this was right after Councilman Michael Tubbs had become Mayor Michael Tubbs. And as many of you already know, I ran Michael's original city council campaign. But I wasn't really, within his circle during the mayoral campaign, so I thought, okay, great idea, Wendy, but you and 50 million other people are asking to meet up with Mayor Tubbs now, and I don't have the in, But she persisted, and George persisted, and I'm happy that they did so that we could all be here today to talk about the great work that some of the community members are doing in Stockton. Now, when George talked to me about the idea of this event, I thought of two things that I thought that I could bring to it. And one of it is bringing voice to our youth. And I'm part of, and the Pride Center is part of, a collaborative that we call the All-Stars. And I believe in January, we brought youth from each of our organizations together and asked them, would you like to form a youth council? What would you like to do with that youth council? And they voted to do it, and they voted on 3 specific issues, and they're going to be here today to talk about some of those issues. And I'm really proud of these new generation of leaders, and I'm looking forward to the great things that they do. The second thing was, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right, then I could only think of one person that could be our MC. And to my surprise, this person said yes. Now, San Quinones, I knew I was going to mess this up. San Quinones, the author of the book Dreamland, wrote the following about our MC today. In 31 years as a reporter, most of them at daily newspapers, I worked with 2 great columnists. One was Steve Lopez of the LA Times, and the other was Michael Fitzgerald of the Stockton Record. Well, while Mike, a recently retired columnist for the Record, he worked as a reporter there for 5 years, and as the paper columnist for 28 years. During this time, his column on city politics, people, and other subjects, sometimes offbeat, won numerous awards and became part of the fabric of the city of Stockton. Michael is also keen on Stockton's rich history. And what is unique, I just recently, I felt like I'd known Michael from reading his articles my whole life. But just in working on this project, I've gotten to know him a little bit more. And what I find so fascinating is that the history of Stockton, to him, includes all the faces, and he often remembers the individuals that make up these stories and their contributions and their life. And that so impressed me. He won the Charles Weber Award for furthering our understanding of our city's history, and he's currently in negotiation for a book deal with Arcadia Press. It is my honor to introduce our MC for today, Michael Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the State of Our Youth, Stockton Townhall Meeting. Really honored to be a part of this today. When I worked at the Record as a columnist, I once held a contest to come up with a new motto for the city of Stockton. So I got hundreds and hundreds of suggestions, and some of them would have gone down pretty good with the Chamber of Commerce. For instance, there was Stockton, Crossroads of Commerce. Stockton, Diversity's Rainbow. Stockton, Pearl of the Delta. However, those were in the minority. About 75% the overwhelming majority of the slogans were like, Stockton, Mayberry on drugs. Stockton, Stockton, the gang's all here. And remember, Stockton spelled backwards is not Cox. I never understood that one. Actually, one of them was just Stockton, but the O is a target riddled with bullet holes. That was the reader's way of saying that things are not entirely as they should be in the city of Stockton. In reality, though, let's keep it real. Stockton has a lot of things going for it, but there could be so much more. But first, let's tick off a few of the good things, okay? We have probably the last undeveloped urban waterfront in the state of California. I don't know if anybody here has been to Baltimore Harbor or the Riverwalk in San Antonio or any of the other places where cities that are lucky enough to have a waterfront have done great things with it. Picture, if you will, people living down there in apartments or condominiums that have boat docks down on the water. And they can hop in their boat and go out to Windmill Cove for Taco Tuesday, or then go out on the Golden Gate Bridge if they want. Picture that waterfront teeming with people and tourists who spend money and support local businesses that goes into the general fund that pays for our services in this cash-strapped city, pays for more police, more fire, filling more potholes, saving the dying urban forest, more library hours, more recreation programs, you name it. Picture down there shops, bars, restaurants, bars. It could be remarkable. It could be a place that other cities would kill for. So it's full of potential. And a related asset, it goes without saying, is the San Joaquin Delta. There's 1,000 miles of waterways right out there. And it's a paradise for people who love to boat, to fish, to party. How about Stockton's downtown? There's two ways to look at Stockton's downtown. But the positive way is that Stockton's downtown is full of unique and organic character. There's a certain generic thing going on in America. You see it. You pull off any off-ramp in any of the 50 states, and you see the same things. You see, what? A Walmart or a Target, a McDonald's, a Bed Bath & Beyond. And sure, we have that off-ramp here, but our downtown is not like that. Our downtown is full of unique, beautiful, organic valley architecture that has come up organically, that's unique to us, that's not cookie-cutter America. And those buildings are just waiting for startups, repurposing. And we see a lot of that going on already. And I hope that there's more in the pipeline. I could tick off other good things about Stockton, but I want to mention one more that everybody takes for granted. And that's the climate here. We are blessed. Yes, we've had some late season rains, but we've also had, in the last few months, a bumper crop of absolutely ideal days. Don't sell that short. Don't take that for granted. And if you don't think that we're lucky and living on the Gold Coast in terms of climate, I invite you to visit Tornado Alley in Missouri this week. They're putting their houses back together like jigsaw puzzles. Go visit the sweltering, humid states of the South or the Northwest, where people have to put on 20 layers of clothing just to go outside so they can shovel their house out of the snow. I could go on, but we're not here today to be PR people. We're here today to be civic doctors, not merely to diagnose Stockton's aches and pains, but what's more important, to prescribe the cures, the long overdue solutions, and to celebrate the people who are working on those cures and delivering them. So, since we're going to get into some of Stockton's challenges, let's just quickly tick off some of the main ones. Crime, affordable housing, homelessness, downtown decay, the vacancies on the waterfront and the semi-stranded assets there, underperforming schools, Not only illiteracy in terms of letters, but civic illiteracy. People who don't understand how government works or how to make it work for them. Blighted neighborhoods. And most of all, my pet peeve and the problem that I think underlies all the other problems, the economy. The San Joaquin Valley, Stockton to Bakersfield, 8-county region, 4 million people, suffers pockets of near Appalachian poverty. The low-wage agrarian economy pays people here easily $10,000 less per capita than people 30 miles away in places like Pleasanton. Consequently, City Hall collects fewer tax dollars because there's fewer dollars to collect. If you've ever wondered why Stockton can never lick its crime problem and drop us out of the top, crime is dropping in Stockton. It's been dropping slowly for years, but not fast enough. And there's still shocking crime in this town. And still many people who hit the floor when they hear a car backfire, or won't let their kids play in the front yard for fear of stray bullets, or don't even use the front rooms in their houses. You've been there. Well, that's why. Because we can never get enough money to hire enough police to get on top of the crime problem, or to fill enough potholes, or without special taxes to provide a suite of services that cities are supposed to provide. So what do we really need? We need a better economy. And how do we get a better economy? California State University, Stockton. Stockton is the largest city in the state of California without its own 4-year public university. In the 1970s, when Stockton was a city of 200,000 people, and Turlock was a city of 10,000 people, Turlock got a state university. By what crazy criteria did Turlock surpass Stockton in terms of deserving a state university? Well, it was all political. They had a powerful political figure in their city. But it's a travesty. So, California State University, Stockton, the importance of that cannot be overstated, and I hope that every person here, no matter what your passion is, no matter what your activism is, what your civic crusade is, I hope you will also get on the bandwagon for a Stockton State University, because when we start cranking out college graduates here, they will stay here. They will infuse this town with a youth culture, with research and development to help the agricultural economy, but also to create startups of new things that will diversify our economy, that will make a stronger economy, that will make for a more vibrant city. So, we're here today to talk about these things with 2 different panels. The San Joaquin Youth Council and the activists who are featured on the documentary Stockton's Rise from the Ashes of Bankruptcy. And we're here to hear from you, too. We're holding question and answers after each of the panels. So, if you didn't pick up your card and your pencil when you checked in, look around for the volunteers, give them a wave, so that you can write your question. And those questions will be brought up to me, and I'll run them by the panelists for their answers. So, now, I'd like to introduce, for Mayor Michael Tubbs, representing him today will be Mr. Lang Lantau. Lang is the director of the Stockton Scholars and the executive director of Reinvent Stockton Foundation, and you all know what that's about. He's also chairman of the board of Stockton Unified School District's Board of Trustees. Lang, come on up. There you go, buddy.
Thanks, Ty. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Ooh, okay, can I hear that one more time? Good afternoon, everyone. Awesome, it sounds like we're waking up. So as Mike shared, I am the representative of Mayor Michael Tubbs today. And I was thinking about what to say, and I was thinking about, should I use some of his words today, the speech that he often gives, the poem that he often gives, and I thought that, honestly, I wasn't going to do it justice. And if I was going to try to imitate him, I wasn't able to do that. But instead what I wanted to share as a way to kind of kick things off and then get out of the way so that the young people's voices can be heard is just a note of welcome. And to share this thing with you that is happening in my mind where these past couple of days have not been believing my calendar. And I've been looking at my calendar and telling myself, is it actually 2019? I don't truly believe it. And the reason I don't truly believe it is because it does not make sense to me that it's been 7 years since I and many people in this room decided to move back to Stockton in 2012. And in 2012, just as I was about to graduate from college, I, alongside many of the people that I see in this audience today, folks like Tylisha, Anthony, Jasmine, and a guy named Michael Tubbs, who at the time was graduating from Stanford, had a lot of scholarship money, but honestly did not even have an iron to iron his shirts. Some of y'all remember those days. Decided to come back and decided to be part of a movement to reinvent our community. We saw some of the major obstacles that Brandon spoke so beautifully about this morning, that Mike just reiterated. We saw the issues of crime and violence and illiteracy and poverty that had really kept our community down for so long. And we decided, against all odds, knowing nothing about political change, knowing nothing about community change, knowing only what we had learned about in high school youth advisory commissions and in college classes on sociology, that we were going to be part of a movement to change the trajectory of our city. And that we were going to try to help reinvent our community. I can't believe that it's been 7 years since that happened. And in that time, we said that we wanted to make sure to put young people's voices at the center, to bring into the center of political power the folks who have often been left behind, the folks on the margins, whether that's voices that were ignored because of age or because of race or because of gender or because of sexual orientation, folks that, or because of documentation, immigration status or former history and involvement with our institutions. And we said that we believed that there could be a stronger and more beautiful community if young people's voices were elevated. In those 7 years, we've seen promising things happen. We got one of our leaders elected as the city council member representing South Stockton, and then as our mayor. That deserves some claps. We fought for Stockton Unified and our school systems to really stop investing in the school-to-prison pipeline and increase academic expectations for all of our kids. We got them to double the number of counselors in our system. Thank you for that. We worked with long-standing nonprofit institutions like STAND and worked arm in arm to hear from community members around what they wanted, to shut down liquor stores, to help ensure that banks in South Stockton were set up, that financial institutions were set up. We also experienced major setbacks, and in those 7 years, we've lost far too many young people to violence, to lack of opportunity. We've had family members and friends disappeared because of immigration policies that still continue to marginalize and push us away. But in the meantime, those young people that came back in 2012, we've grown up. And I said that I don't believe the calendar because for so long I've been saying that young people need to be at the center of our decision-making, young people like me. But the funny thing is I'm no longer a young person. I think that at 28 I'm no longer able to call myself part of that community. Though I'm still trying to use my college ID for all the discounts that I can. I don't know if anyone else does that. And they still haven't caught me on that. So today it's really about, as Mike said, first recognizing and hearing this labor of love that George Koster has produced for our community. A podcast that captures a lot of that momentum in 2016 and on. And if you haven't already listened to the podcast, I know you're going to hear a little bit of it today, but I encourage you to go onto his website or go to KWDC and listen to all of it. Can we have a round of applause for George for doing that? we're here to take stock of how we've been doing and map out where we need to go. Because we know that while there has been promising progress, we are far from where we need to be as a community. Can I have some snaps or claps for that if you agree that we still have a long way to go? And then lastly, and this is I think the most important thing, we're going to really put the mic, the multiple mics, 4 of them and many more, in the hands of the young people who are living the life as Stocktonians today, who are our current high school students, who are our current college students, who are our next leaders, and to be very honest, who are leading us today. And we're going to ask them to share with us where we need to go as a community. So before I kind of pass the mic, I do just want to hear and see who is in the room. So can I ask you to stand up if you are a young person? If you are in high school or in college, if you're going to be on our panel, if you're a youth participant, can we have a round of applause for those young people for coming out today? I'm going to ask you to stay standing, and I'm going to ask you to continue and stand up if you are one of the founders of the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, or if you're a member of the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition. So if you helped with some of our community impact assessments in 2014, or you've been to any of those events. I see some people that are being shy. Stand on up. Okay, can we have a round of applause for the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition? Thank you. If you came to any summit, came to any of those things, I'm going to ask you to stay standing and maybe even raise your hand if in the past 7 years you've ever participated in one of those park beautification events that we used to have all the time that Ms. Jasmine Delafas ran like a machine, right? And then lastly, I'm going to ask you to stand up if you are a participant or a supporter of any of the nonprofits that are doing social justice and equity work in our community that you see on the screen. Stand, Sow a Seed, Fathers and Families, San Joaquin Pride Center, Little Manila, Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, SSLA, any of those, stand on up. I want to see you and recognize you. Thank you. You can sit down. So if that doesn't give you hope, seeing all the people that continue day in and day out to be involved in this work, to push forward this work to make our community more healthy, to make our schools more inclusive, to make our businesses more thriving, then I don't know what does. At this time, it's my great honor I believe I'm passing it back to Mike, who will introduce the Youth Council. But I'm really looking forward to hearing them kind of map out the future for us so that we know where to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Lang. Nicely done. Okay, believe it or not, when I was your age, it was the 60s and then the early 70s. And that whole counterculture thing was going on in San Francisco. And although you may not believe it, the City of Stockton, powers that be, virtually launched a war against the kids in this town. They did everything they could to suppress youth culture. A San Joaquin County supervisor stood up in a meeting and thundered, "I want to make it as difficult to present live rock music in the parks as possible so we won't have any concerts anymore." Your tax dollars at work. So, I think we can take hope in one thing, not just the presence of all these young activists and future leaders, but that today it's different. Today, city leaders have come to recognize the importance of youth to a vibrant city and a strong economy. And young people, like Lang said, with a vision of what Stockton can be, are rolling up their sleeves and participating in civic affairs like never before, at least not in living memory.
You're listening to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. This is George Coster, your host, and if you're just joining us, in this episode we're discussing the reinvention of the City of Stockton, California, at our State of Our Youth, a Stockton Townhall Meeting. We've been listening to the opening remarks by Michael Fitzgerald, a recently retired columnist for the Stockton Record newspaper, and Lang Lindau, the executive director of Stockton Scholars and Reinvent Stockton. Let's get back to Michael Fitzgerald introducing our first panel discussion with the San Joaquin County Youth Council members.
Okay, now, the San Joaquin Youth Council. These are the activists of today, the leaders of tomorrow. Let's meet them. Come on up as quickly as you can, please. It's my pleasure to introduce, and if I get your name wrong, just sing out, because I probably will, Gerdon Denaire. Did I get it right? Gerdon. Jerdon, I apologize. Jerdon is a graduating from Bear Creek High School. He's a dancer with the Little Manila Dance Collective, and he spreads awareness of the Filipino culture. Rogelio Vivero is graduating from Medicine High School, going on to Sacramento State, and participates in Little Manila's after-school program, and he fights for ethnic studies. By the way, I'm only scratching the surface of the accomplishments of these young activists and leaders. There's so many of them that if I listed all of their accomplishments, it would take up half of our time. So, Ahala Lee is graduating from Delta's middle college, Delta College's high school, and he's going to Sacramento State. He participates in Little Manila's Dance Collective, the Kulintang Academy, and Ethnic Studies courses. Tafari Lee is a sophomore at Stockton Collegiate High School and participates in Little Manila's Dance Collective and Ethnic Studies courses. Michaela Davis is a freshman at Franklin High School and participates in SEED's mentoring program and learned how to be a positive advocate for friends, and she mediates conflicts. Alicia Hinojosa is a freshman at Franklin High School and participates in SEED's mentoring program, where she's created the No One Eats Alone Day. Johnny Barrios attends Weston Ranch High School and has a passion to lead and to teach about culture-based healing through indigenous practices. Interesting. Peter Elias attends New Vision Education Center and is a graduate of Fathers and Families of San Joaquin's El Joven Noble curriculum program, along with participating in the Seeds in Concrete workshop. Seeds in Concrete, they take trees out to neighborhoods with bad air and toxic environments and plant trees for the health of the neighborhood. That is a great program. Tyler Lovely Cotton. Tyler graduated from Franklin High School. She's passionate about cosmetology, entrepreneurship, and informing others about natural health care. She's involved with the Fathers and Families and the Warriors program there. Andre Flemings is a senior at Franklin High School. He's an active member of BSU and a varsity basketball player. And Eric Zuniga, she's been in all the programs at Fathers and Families, and he says, I like making a difference out in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a hand for these wonderful youth council people. All right, panelists, I'm just going to throw some random questions at you, and if you feel you've got an answer, please, I don't need to pick you out. You volunteer and share your thoughts with us, okay? So let's start with this. How is Stockton in terms of youth culture these days? Do you have activities that are positive, that are fun, that reflect who you are and what you want to do?
Yeah, we have great activities at my old school, Elmwood Elementary, if you guys know. I don't know if you guys know, but it's right here out east. They got great sports now. They got a lot of activities for the students. Like back then, we didn't have activities. We had like basketball, but now they got soccer, they got volleyball, they got softball, they got baseball. I'm like, what? That's great for our youth, though, because now it's showing them a new way, a new path to get out of the streets and not be in the streets. But at Franklin, too, they got all the sports. They got everything you need, but except they have lack of counseling. Because, like, I see a lot of students that need help, but now I see a couple out here, but not all of them, you know. But, yeah, that's what I got to say.
Anybody want to add on to that?
Well, I feel like Stockton has a lot for our youth, but it doesn't really have enough. It doesn't have enough safe areas. Like, it's kind of a quiet area for the youth, I guess. We don't really have a big impact or big voice, strong voice in our community. There's not really much place for us to go actually and have a quality good time with friends and stuff.
Okay, let's talk about that. Are there any places that you go out of town for music, dance, any cultural events, art, or just to be a part of a different scene?
I don't know. For me personally, I go to Manteca a lot. There's a lot of good, like.
Okay, so what do they have there that we should import?
That's a big question.
What would you like to see here that you go out of town for?
I guess more community centers and like the YMCA, like more like stuff like that, like
Recreation programs?
Yeah, recreational programs.
Okay. You all agree with that? Okay. Now somebody touched on counseling. So everybody's got a need for mentoring, for different perspectives, for adults who care about you. Is there enough of that? And if there isn't, what are you going to do about it? What can be done about it, I should say.
Well, I can touch on that. When I needed counseling, a while ago, before I got it recently, there was none. There was no counseling in schools. There was no one that you can speak to. And if you did speak to somebody and speak about something else happening to you, social services, we call it child support, or whatever you call it nowadays. And so, but as of maybe less than a year ago, I started doing counseling with the Stockton Trauma Recovery Center. And obviously some people know it. And like they do good work. They help with people who were victims of violent crimes. And the results in the work actually shows, like with me, I'm about to be done with the counseling there, because it actually helped me with multiple things.
I don't want to, I should ask you, if I want you to be comfortable answering this.
Yeah.
But can you talk a little bit about what issues you needed to talk through?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, you got me there. So some of the issues that I needed help with was because when I was growing up, there was a lot of DV, aka domestic violence, going on in my house. So I needed someone to talk to about that. And when I was growing up, there was no one to talk to about that. It was more of a keep it to myself and don't say anything about it. Because when I would go and talk to my mom about it, she'd be like, oh no, we can't do anything, we can't tell nobody about it. Because I had got taken away from CPS once before. And
so where would you be? I mean, what kind of state would you be in if you hadn't gotten that counseling that you got?
So when I didn't get that counseling, the state that I was in, I had already reached the state that I was in. I was acting out. I wasn't going to school. I was ditching school. I was hanging around with the wrong type of people. I was getting into stuff that I shouldn't have been getting into. I was just doing all the wrong things that I shouldn't have been doing at my age.
Okay, anybody else? Were you running with the wrong crowd and in a place you shouldn't be? And what changed you?
So for me, what changed me was that when I got the case I got now, that had nothing to do with me. That kind of like shook me a little bit, because to be honest, I didn't think that I wasn't gonna get caught up for anything, and I ended up did get caught up for something that I didn't do. So probation referred me to Fathers and Families for community service, and I ain't gonna lie, when I first went, I was kind of hesitant. I was like every other youth, I don't want to be here. I want to come, do what I gotta do, and leave. And after a while, they showed me love. They showed me that they cared, and that's what I needed at the time. I needed people to show me that I can do better things in life, that I don't have to do what I was doing, and they showed me that, and that worked with me. So I ended up staying. I ended up changing what I was doing, and now, like, instead of hurting the community, I'm helping the community.
Panelists, yeah, very good. Thank you so much for that great answer. So panelists, let me ask you, is there anyone else who would like to share a story of transformation and changing your direction in life?
I guess I could share my story. I'm Johnny Barrios. I'm here with the Youth and Racial Justice Department. I'm a youth organizer and youth advocate for Fathers and Families of San Joaquin. I wrote down my story. So Fathers and Families, they helped me get through a tough stage in my life in which I was vulnerable and defiant. As a youth, I didn't understand much. I had little guidance. I have no father in my life or anything like that. So I have zero guidance. So all my friends and everything were my guidance growing up. I spent my time with bad friends and growing up with grown men. Fathers and Families offered me a safe, healthy environment. They called me every day to make sure I wasn't doing anything with my time or spare time. They helped me get employed and back into school, because growing up I didn't really look at school as an important thing, so I was always just hanging out. So Fathers and Families of San Joaquin mission is to promote the cultural, spiritual, economic, and social renewal of the most vulnerable families in Stockton and the greater San Joaquin. Fathers and Families, they strive to bring hope to Stockton community, especially to its most just hanging marginalized groups, the youth of color, and formerly incarcerated individuals who deserve a second chance. And in our community, there's second chance is a big word, right? Like, a lot of people think that, you only get one chance in life. We need more organizations like Fathers and Families, or Pride, or Hope and Noble, or what organizations to give our youth the proper knowledge that there is a second chance, and that everybody has a place in our community and has a voice in our community and has power, no matter who you are, or if you're a person of color, white, Hispanic, black, or Native.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, Mike. Is it good if I take over the mic?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, for sure. Hello. Let me introduce myself, who I am, and where I come from. My name is Eric Zuniga. I'm from Stockton, East Side, raised, born here in Stockton, but I grew up not having everything, but growing up to having everything. So I didn't have a lot when I was a kid. We lived in apartments. Me and my parents, we went in the struggle for a cool minute, but now I'm back over here at school trying to get everything straight. But at school, there's a lot of bad people. You can meet a lot of good people, though. There's good people and there's bad people. But at Franklin, I came to Franklin. I started coming to Franklin 8th grade for the IB program. But then I kind of liked it because the people I was hanging out with wasn't good for me. And yeah, at school, freshman, sophomore year, I was doing sports. I did sports from 5th to sophomore year. I played football. I try to stay out the trouble. I try to do right. But then there's this little group, and I kind of got into the bad habits, and then but it wasn't just because of that. It was because the teachers would kick me out for little things. I would sit down and we were doing this test, and I remember it was the last day of school, my freshman year. My freshman year was my last day of school, 6th period. I just had to get in through an hour or two, and I was doing my test, and this kid wanted to talk to me, but I ignored him, and he kept trying to call my attention. And it was me and him were only the darkest people in the class, because I don't know, it was everybody else was more light skinned, but me and him were the darkest, yeah. But and the teacher was, well, not to be racist or anything, but she was white, and she kind of looked at me, and she was like, oh yep, you step outside. And she told me that I couldn't be talking during the test, but I told her it wasn't me talking, and she didn't believe my word. And then I tried to come back into class, and she kicked me out, started cussing, and then the bell rang, and it was already over, and I didn't get to finish my test. But
so let me ask you, is what you're saying that you feel the teacher treated you unfairly, or that your behavior needed some improvement, or
no, the teacher,
both?
It was kind of both. I wasn't talking though, but it was
So, the teacher treated you unfairly?
Yeah, because she didn't give me a chance to go back and finish the test.
Well, let me take that over to the next subject area, crime. I want to ask the panelists, do you feel safe in Stockton? Do you feel safe where you live? Do you feel safe, say, going downtown? Do you feel that the police are on your side and treat you with respect? And if the answer to any of those questions is no, then what course of action can you take to improve the status quo? Let's hear from someone that hasn't spoken yet.
I think I can chime in on that. So I go to Stockton Collegiate, which is a school downtown, and I think the two questions of do you feel safe downtown and do you feel like the police are on your side are two very different questions. Mm-hmm. The answer to the first one is I do feel safe downtown because I'm always downtown Monday through Friday because I go to school down there.
Now, let me interrupt and ask you this. Do you feel safe downtown by day and by night, or do you ever go downtown at night?
Well, at night, the times I have been downtown at night, it's like I'm not necessarily like fearing of anything. I'm more like cautious, because it's not that I know something is going to happen. It's like something could happen.
Because there's fewer people on the street. Okay, but go on with your answer.
And then, so, like, do I feel safe downtown? Yes, because, like, especially when you're just walking around downtown, like, most of what you see is just regular people going about their day, and then you'll see, like, homeless people on the streets and stuff, and, like, I think that's what people make them feel, like, unsafe downtown. But, like, really, there's, like, if you're ever downtown a lot, you'll learn that the homeless people, like, they don't have, like, they're not going to do you any harm. And that, like, that's what a lot of people get wrong. Like, they think that, like, oh, this dude is out here sleeping on the street. He must be, like, trying to rob me. He must be trying to do stuff. But really, like, in reality, most of the time, they're just trying to, like survive. And then to the other question of, like, do I feel like the police are on my side? The answer to that, a lot of the time, is not really. Because there'll be times, like, so for my school, we get off-campus lunch as sophomores. So, like, there's times where, like, I'll just be outside, like, playing music with my friends, eating lunch. And then, like, cops, there was one time there was, like, cops on a bicycle. And they just, like, pulled up and they sat on the corner. And they just waited until when we, like, tried to go back to our class, they, like, crossed the street and they followed us, like, from the other side of the street as if they were, like, watching us. Even though, like, we weren't doing anything suspicious. It was just a bunch of kids hanging out. So,
did you talk with them?
Well, no, because I had to go straight back to class.
Yeah.
But then when they saw, like, I noticed that, like, when we started going towards the building, that's when they sort of, like, turned around and left.
Okay, so is there something that an activist can do to make the police more friendly and responsive and respectful?
I don't think you can't change somebody and how they feel and what they do. It's all over the news that police do things for no reason and nothing's changed yet, so.
Are you aware of any changes undergoing at the Stockton Police Department these days?
No.
Yeah, well, they've got a reconciliation program. Excuse me. They're part of a national experiment of 4 cities that are trying to go out and listen to their communities and incorporate the suggestions that they hear and change their practices. Mm-hmm. They're also changing the officer-involved shooting protocols to oversimplify it, to shoot less often. However, there's stuff that's going on in the offices in the police department and stuff that's going on the streets, and they're often the new philosophy in the top hasn't reached the street-level officers yet. So I think, personally, you would be surprised at what they're trying to do, but I'm listening to you about how well they're doing it on the street. That's not for me to say. That's for you to say. Mm-hmm. Okay? What about the homelessness, the homeless people that you say you see on the street and that can make you feel uncomfortable? What do we do about that?
It's a lot you could do with the homeless people. You could help them get into shelters. There's a lot of abandoned buildings you could bring back to life and make them into shelters. You could start a program for the homeless and help them get their lives together. But instead, you judge them. I see a lot of police pick a few homeless people up. Instead, you could just help them with getting those buildings together.
Anybody else?
Well, I don't know. I was trying, as you were describing our downtown Stockton with their all our old buildings, and you were saying how beautiful it is and everything. All I was just imagining was all the poverty down there and all the homelessness. And they do try to clear out the homeless, but all the homeless do is move up to the other side of the street, right? And that's what we see. I mean, our crime levels. Look at our crime levels. We had 34 days and 34 deaths. I mean, my friend just died 2 days ago at Lewis Park. He just got shot. That's Stockton right there.
I'm sorry.
You know, every month there's at least 4 or 5 deaths, or you know, every day somebody's getting incarcerated. Every day somebody's losing their home or getting you know, you don't know nobody's life or what they do. As in the police, they they do their job. I mean, everybody, they have a job and they do it to the best of their ability, right? And I mean, I've had 3 friends pass away, and all their murder cases have been solved. So they are doing their job in the justice system. I would be ignorant to come up here and tell them.
Did you say that the murders were solved?
Yeah,
they resulted in arrests and prosecutions?
Mm-hmm.
That's great, and that's probably because not only of good police work, but because the community cooperated in finding the suspects. And so kudos to the community as well. You have to know who to trust and when, I guess. But I love to see people like that behind bars.
Back again. Homeless. My family dealt with homeless. One of my uncles, matter of fact, not my uncle, but he's dating my aunt, so he's my uncle. Yeah. So, but he's older now. He has 3 kids. His life is straight. He's a truck driver, but he was homeless. He used to live downtown under the bridges, on Wilson Way, right there where not that long ago it was on fire. Just yesterday, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yesterday it was on fire. My uncle, he used to sleep right there with his homies, but the school homies he used to hang out with from ditching and all that. He went out, he got his life straight, and he worked, he hustled, he got his money, he's taking care of the family, but he just got to keep grinding right now though, because he has to get a better house. He's in a bad area, terrible area. He was telling me yesterday, I just went out yesterday with him, and we went to the movies, and he was talking about, like, man, just not that long ago, some Asian guy came up to one of his neighbors with a full auto. I was like, what? Like a full some machine. And I was like, damn. And the kids were out there, and he was like, yeah. And imagine he just wants to keep his kids in school and keep them from growing up like how he did, homeless. But yeah, he got everything straight. But homeless people, I see homeless people and I give them money. My mama has a good heart. Woo. My mama, she be having her blankets right in the car and like the baby's blankets too. And one day we were driving, like my mom came to pick me up at Fathers and Families, and downtown we saw this guy. He was in the corner and he was like all shriveled up and like cold and whatnot in like a little wheelchair. And my mom, she was like, hijo, like in Spanish, she was like, go give him a blanket because it's cold and it's raining and we got everything we need, so let's give him something, And I got off the car, I gave him my sister's blanket because that's the only blanket we had in the car, and we covered him up with the pink blanket, and we told him God bless you and everything, and gave him, and I pray at night.
Well, I commend you. I mean, that's human compassion, and we can never have enough of that. That's like the other panelists said. You don't judge. You can always find a reason not to care. If you're looking for a reason to say, this guy doesn't deserve my money or my compassion, you can always find it. But compassion is like what you do on the front end. But what is the structural problem here? Why are there so many homeless people in Stockton? And the answer that I think many people would give is that there's not enough affordable housing. Now, there's also not enough mental health services, enough beds to get in rehabilitation from drug addiction. There's a suite of services that are necessary in order to help some people get back up on their feet. But let's talk about affordable housing for a minute. Most people in Stockton can't afford the median house. And once again, this goes back to Stockton's economy. Because the irony is, we have a lot of developers here, but very few of them are building housing in Stockton. There's a second economy in San Joaquin County. It's a belt along the South County. It's Ripon, Manteca, Tracy. These are the bedroom communities for the Bay Area supercommuters that go over the hill and make 6-figure incomes, but can't afford to live there, so they've come here for affordable housing. So what happens is, because Stockton's economy is so weak, it's very difficult to build housing here and make a profit with the sensitive price points that they can charge Stockton people. Once again, need a stronger, more diversified economy. Once again, not the last time you'll hear this from me, California State University, Stockton. So Do you agree with me that a university is a good idea? Or if you don't, what's the solution to improving Stockton's economy? And I know I asked a question and now I'm interrupting, but I want to add this. 1 out of 4 Stocktonians lives in poverty. 1 out of 10 lives in something called deep poverty, twice below the poverty line. Studies show that deep poverty is the trigger for gun violence. So once again, it's the economy. So what about this? Poverty, deep poverty, can't afford housing. Any thoughts? And by the way, we have about 7 minutes left for this panel, so I hope some of the people that haven't spoken up will take advantage of this opportunity to share your thoughts too.
My name's Rogelio. So I've lived my entire life in the Conway homes, and my mom, she's a stay-at-home mom, while my dad, he's an agricultural worker, works in the fields. And with the rent going up, I find it a lot harder now times for my parents to pay bills on time, and they struggle with like just the rent itself. Living in because I come from a low-income background, and just like how Mike was saying, how like the rent is going up, and that's it's very evident. You can see it, so it's hard to find like means to pay for rent when it's keep going up, and when my dad's out there making like like not even minimum wage for the work he's doing, and like the hard work that goes into the fields that's not really recognized a lot. And with that, the building a CSU Stockton would help a lot, especially for those that are low income. They can, just having a CSU in Stockton is just kind of that mind goal, in a sense that like when you see it, you know that you have a future ahead of you. And then also with that, I know that like building a CSU Stockton will also like help the economy, but a lot of people are worried that with that CSU Stockton being built, that rent will still go up, and kind of just trying to pay for it. And so,
but I'd like to think that if we train our youth for high-paying, high-skilled 21st century jobs, that they'll have the money to pay the rent when it goes up, because the wages here will go up as well. That's the problem. We had a truck fabrication firm here that had to institute a literacy test because they realized that a lot of the Stockton kids they were hiring couldn't read. That's got to stop, ladies and gentlemen, or all our dreams and our aspirations and our hopes for Stockton just aren't going to happen. We have to have literacy. We have to have civic literacy. We have to have education. And we have to crank out a number of people with BAs or higher degrees, which, among other things, you didn't mention this, will lead to a better ruling class in Stockton. I don't know if you want to call it ruling elite, ruling class, just better leaders. And we're seeing the beginning of that right here with this panel. Anybody else want to share some thoughts, or you want to take another question?
In terms of a CSU Stockton, I feel like when you said, is that the solution to Stockton's economic problems? I feel like there's no one solution. But having a CSU Stockton can greatly improve the economy in multiple different ways that a lot of people might not often think about. Because a lot of times, I think when people say having a CSU in Stockton, how can that bring money into Stockton? Not only would it bring money into Stockton, it would bring more people into Stockton. It could help people here go to college without give people here a more affordable option for college. It could create a better college-going culture in Stockton. And I feel like a lot of the youth right now don't really have that kind of mindset. They have the mindset, they might finish high school, they might go to Delta. If they even do, they might just find jobs that they can survive on. But having a CSU here would create that college-going culture, because you have a big university in your town where you could get a degree from, where you could get a good quality education. You can go, you could get your degree, and it creates a future where kids don't have to leave Stockton to get their education. They don't have to leave Stockton to learn, and they could stay in Stockton and still get a quality education and be able to get the higher education that they want.
You know, that's a very good point. A lot of families, even families of good people, have no tradition of higher education in their family line. So they don't think in those terms. And good people though they may be, that's not just poverty, that's poverty of mind. And we have to eradicate that so that everybody knows that they have a shot at reaching their full potential and at getting a 21st century job that's high paying and challenging and that inures to the benefit of the whole community and the whole city. So very well said, young man, very well said. Music to my ears to hear you say that. A culture of college, absolutely correct. So we got another minute or so. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add on any subject that you want to get out and share with the audience here today?
Yeah, actually, so I agree with Rogelio and Ajala. So I come from actually a pretty big family. So growing up, it was always tight money with my parents. And now everyone except me, I'm the youngest in the family, so everyone grew up and they moved out of the house. But money is still tight because the rent just keeps going up and up. So my dad, he has to go all the way to Fremont just to work so that he can get money and then come back. And that doesn't even take in consideration of the gas money that he has to take from Stockton to Fremont and then back. And also, I agree with the Ajala for CSU Stockton because it builds up the hope that once you get out of high school, there could be a college waiting for you, especially if you're a low-income student and you can see yourself go to a college that is affordable and you don't have to get out of Stockton because Stockton is just a really great place to be in.
And it'll be greater if there's a youth culture. It'll be greater by a factor of 5. I don't know if you've ever been to Telegraph Avenue, the sort of interzone between California State University, Berkeley, and the rest of the city. It's 10 blocks of sheer madness, and it's great. I mean, it's just a vibrant place. It's buzzing with youthful energy. It's crackling with ideas, and it brings the city into the college and the college into the city. I can't stress enough, and I'm so glad to hear that you all are on board with this idea. So we have some questions from the audience. So at this time, I'd like to run some audience questions, and I thank the audience for your questions. So again, see if you want to take a whack at these, all right? So this person says, thank you to all the youth for your bravery in sitting through this panel. What can the city of Stockton do more to support you, your families, and friends?
Programs like Fathers and Families or like Boys and Girls Club. I remember those are the only 2 programs I really know about. Well, not really, but I mean now I know more because Fathers and Family hooked it up and taught me more. But those were the only 2 I really knew because I play sports, right? So there's Pop Warner and Boys and Girls Club. That's a way out to go on a new path, and Fathers and Families and all these great programs we have right here on the board. But where was this back then? That's why we got homeless people now, because they didn't really know about that. My uncle didn't know. He was in class, but he didn't know a lot. But the programs, I feel like the programs will, like if we get more programs, look, we got these chairs that are empty. We got youth up here really speaking, and there's nobody out here. Like, I mean, we got our people, right? We out here, but we need more.
A small group of people like this can change the city.
That's word, yep.
Okay, next question.
Oh, wait, can I actually answer that
How
question?
can we make more opportunity for teens to work? So, how do you get more jobs for people your age?
You guys
2 years ago, there was a program called WorkNet. It was wonderful. I mean, you guys shut it down. Youth employment's big. It's big. I mean, if you guys were talking about literacy and everything, I mean, Stockton has the third lowest literacy in the whole United States. And going into SUSD, I think it's great that they're bringing in more counselors and stuff, but what are the counselors really doing? I don't feel like they're grabbing students one-on-one and like, I don't know, because I was the student that was walking around all day, you know? And no counselor, not one, would walk up to me and ask me a question, how's it going? How's your day going? Nobody would ask me that question. And seeing that the counselors only care about the grades and stuff and don't really care about your personal life, I mean, that's tough. Because me as a youth, I didn't really care about literacy. But if I had like a counselor that was sitting there on me like, oh, you know, it's cool to read or whatever, you know, that would be great. And as an employment, you do need to bring back...
Let me interrupt you right there. I want to say this to all of you and to all of you. If you think literacy should be improved in Stockton, read to your kids. Take 30 minutes before bedtime, lay down on the bed with them in a book, and read them a bedtime story. They'll love books, they'll love letters, and you won't have to fight them to go to bed, because at the end of the 30 minutes they'll be sleepy. Read to your kids. Go ahead.
I was just talking about the employment for youth. Like, that's not my job, but it's your guys' job to empower that. And, I don't know. Never mind.
Okay, so here's another question. You're all very involved already, says this person. How do you imagine growing your impact here in Stockton over the next 5 years? So where are you guys going as leaders and activists in this community?
I would have to say that within the next 5 years to see the school to prison pipeline shut down, and also to see more reinvestment into our youth, because like how, I don't know who said it earlier, but someone was saying that the main reason why stuff's happening right now is because money is the main reason why people do what they do, because they don't have the money to do certain things that they need. And if we invest back in our youth, then certain things like crime or robberies or shootings or whatever the case may be won't happen if we had reinvestment back in our youth.
Yeah. I also think that we should start investing in our teachers, because there's many teachers that are here that are just trying to get money, or especially like teachers that are just going by the curriculum instead of doing things that the students actually need to learn to progress in life. And also, not only the teachers, but also just counselors, because it seems like nowadays counselors are only stuck up on the students' grades and how it would look good on them. So I think that we need to invest in our school, and that way we can possibly find a better way to shut down the school-to-prison pipeline.
You know, to go back a step to the question you were struggling with about teen jobs, I think that the right people can visit the businesses of Stockton and encourage them to be good community citizens and have internships and other job opportunities for Stockton's youth. Mm-hmm. So if they're not offering internships, if they're not giving kids a chance for like summer jobs or a semester-long internship, they should be encouraged to start those programs. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is from an 80s baby. So we should look in the audience and look for the wildest hair, I guess, 80s hair. Are you aware that there are fewer places now to engage in activities that there used to be, such as golfland, go-karts, skating? So there used to be a number of things for kids to do in this town that aren't happening anymore. So what can be done about that?
I think that like they said, there is less to do now. But something that could really be done is like reopening, like revisiting those things that there used to be able, like people used to be able to like do all these things. Like one of the big things that like probably isn't as popular now that probably was way popular back then is like the skating rinks and stuff like that. I'm sure people used to always go skating, but like nowadays you don't really. Like, people aren't really like, hey, let's go out, let's go skating, you know, like stuff like that. Or like the Boys and Girls Club, it used to be way more popular, I'm sure. But like nowadays, you don't really hear anyone talking like, hey, let's go out to the Boys and Girls Club. or like the Teen Impact Center, you know? That could be a really good, that's a really good place for teens to go and like spend time and hang out and have a place to go. But it's really underused. Like, it's a place where like a lot of teens can get together and just hang out, have a place to be, and just have stuff to do there. They have a basketball court, they have a bowling alley, they have food. But it's really like underused, and I'm sure that like if we like advertise these things out to the youth more, if we advertise these things out to the youth more, like if more youth knew about it, like I'm sure there would be more people there. And these are actually the types of places, the things we need to keep kids like off the streets. Like, kids have nothing to do, so what do? They just go out and do whatever they want. But if they had things to do, like places to go, then I'm sure these are the things that they would be doing instead of like what they're doing now.
You know, the people behind the Boys and Girls Club of Stockton are trying to get it back up on its feet. They're encountering a lot of challenges. It's unbelievable what they've been through. But they are persevering, and I imagine that in the next year or two, another iteration of the Boys and Girls Club will reopen and provide invaluable recreation, but also mentoring towards college and opportunities for people your age. Okay, we're getting towards the end of the questions. Has anyone on this panel ever had a friendly and positive encounter that they want to share? And by that, I guess you don't mean just saying hi to the mailman, but maybe somebody that was a good role model or that influenced you.
So I've had a lot of good role models in my life. One of them was, his name is, he's a algebra teacher at Edison High School. His name is Mr. Weiss. He's actually my mentor now in photography. And, you know, just having him be there for me and him actually caring for me and him trying to show me and teach me different ways about this particular subject that I love and that I found a passion for. Just him really being there and supporting me really gave me a lot of hope. And then another role model a lot of you are familiar with is Lang Luntao. He's been a good mentor to me in real world topics, and just how he's shown me and he's given me hope that I know that I can be a college-bound student, and that now he's changed he's helped me now want to become a boomerang like he did so, and just help reinvest into the youth that are growing up now.
All right, let's have a big hand for this whole panel. What an outstanding group of young people. Activists today, leaders tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking the time. Folks, you can leave the stage now, and thank you so much.
You're listening to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. This is George Coster, your host, and if you're just joining us, in this episode we're discussing the reinvention of the City of Stockton, California, at our State of Our Youth, a Stockton Townhall Meeting. We've been listening to the San Joaquin County Youth Council members sharing their work in the community to address the issues that impact their neighborhoods, schools, parks, and fellow community members. Michael Fitzgerald introduces the voices of episodes 2 through 11 from the documentary series to update the community on their work from our original 2016 recordings.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our second panel. You know, sometimes you hear the term Stockton's finest. That's a term that some people use to describe the police in any city. I think that term needs to be expanded to include our second panel today. These people are the heroes of Stockton. They are the leaders and activists who have devoted their lives to helping the underprivileged and to making Stockton a better city for all of us. Let me introduce them. We have Nicholas Hatten. Nicholas is the founder and executive director of the San Joaquin Pride Center. He's challenged the San Joaquin County and the Central Valley to evaluate how it can best serve its LGBT plus community. Sammy Nunez. Sammy Nunez is the executive director of Fathers and Families of San Joaquin. He's a nationally recognized expert in the field of youth development, violence prevention, community organizing for social change. Fred Scheel Fred Scheel is the administrator of STAND, which is Stockton Taking Actions to Neutralize Drugs. He's developed over 400 units of affordable housing in South Stockton, and he works with residents and the police department to implement and manage community policing. Langland Tao. We have already met Lang. He's, again, the director of the Stockton Scholars and the executive director of Reinvent Stockton Foundation, and he's the chairman of the board of Stockton Unified. Dylan Delvo. Dylan is the executive director of Little Manila Rising. Dylan has served on the Stockton Unified School District Board of Trustees, the Filipino American Democratic Caucus of California, and Catholic Charities. Jasmine Dela Foz. Jasmine is one of the founding members of Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, and she now serves as a senior regional organizer with the Gathering for Justice. Anthony Rodriguez. Anthony Rodriguez is an 8th grade teacher in Stockton, California, and is the Summer Success and Leadership Academy former Mentor Leadership Development Coordinator. Daryl Rutherford. Daryl is the new executive director of the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition. He's worked for the Community Services Planning Council, California Coalition for Rural Housing, the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and he's executive director for the Sacramento Housing Alliance. Tama Brisbane is the founder and director, along with her husband Aaron, of WOW Incorporated, a nonprofit slam poetry collective. Brandon Leake, we've already met. He is the founder and CEO of Called to Move. He's an artistic visionary and award-winning spoken word poet whose roots lie in what he calls the ghettos of Southside Stockton, California. All right, panelists, welcome, and thank you so much for taking of your time to be here. I know that you're all busy people.
So,
but
Michael, just real quick, Lang had to leave, and joining in Lang's place will be Rodrigo Brownson, the Executive Director of Soil Seed Foundation, and Tracy City Council member.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you for being here and for stepping in at the last minute. All right, so let's go back over the list of some of Stockton's challenges, and then let's talk a little bit about what you do to address them, okay? So I think that the main challenge on everybody's mind in Stockton, or many people's mind, is crime. Is there a panelist who could talk a little bit about the changing crime picture in Stockton and where it's got to go?
I think we're all looking at Sammy.
I'll go after you, Sammy.
Just time ladies first.
I think I'm going to redirect the question and say that the main subject on the minds of the panel up here is not so much the crime in Stockton, but crime as it impacts our youth in Stockton. And when it comes to how crime is impacting our youth, I think all of these organizations are focused on the root causes: poverty, lack, safety, trauma, nutrition, literacy. All of those have they come to bear on how youth are impacted by, and sometimes leads to them participating in activities that lead to them being engaged in the school to prison pipeline. So I would really want to hear from my fellow panelists an expanded answer, not just crime in Stockton. That's not why we're here. We're here to talk about the state of youth in Stockton. So let's talk about crime as it relates to our Stockton youth.
There you go.
Well, before you move on, Tama, what's your part?
Can I just do this one? And it's pronounced Tama.
Tama, I apologize.
Yeah.
So what is your piece of this, and what are you doing to help?
So since 2003, With Our Words, my nonprofit organization, has been engaged in youth development through literacy and the performing arts.
Why is that important?
Why is that important? Because it all comes down to language. It comes down to the use and misuse of words. It comes down to having a facility with words and knowing that if you can change your language, you can change your life. And we have structured pedagogy, programs, and events that engage youth in public speaking, in creative speaking, in competitions that have taken them from Stockton, across the country, on almost every stage in our city, crossing genres, involving them with the symphony, the opera, HBO, Brave New Voices, which is an international gathering of over 700 poets from around the world, and taking kids from the 209 and getting them to understand that their area code is not confining them, that they are citizens of the planet, and they do that through words. That's what we do.
Can you give me a before and after example of the youth that come to you that haven't had exposure to this, and then after they've been through some of your programs, how that changes them?
Absolutely. One of my favorite, I have so many favorite stories, but one of my favorite stories involves a young man who barely graduated from Lincoln High School, which is supposedly one of our elite high schools in Stockton. He was not feeling Lincoln. He graduated from Lincoln by the skin of his teeth and was just not feeling education. But he made our slam team. And in going to Washington, D.C., and encountering young people from England and from India and from Canada, and building family just through performing arts and through writing and using his voice to communicate. And at the time, we were there to talk about the No Child Left Behind Act. And he discovered activism. And when he came back to Stockton, he enrolled in Delta College. And he graduated from Delta College with a 4.0. And then he went from Delta College to UC Berkeley. And he graduated from UC Berkeley with a 4.0. And he is now a screenwriter.
Oh, great story. Anyone else have a story like that they'd like to share of the transformative nature of their programs?
It got to be transformative, not transactional. My name is Sammy Nunez. I'm Executive Director of Fathers and Families San Joaquin. You look at all of our young people. They are the measurement. They are the metrics. Like Eric and Peter, Tyler, all these young people that were up here, all these young people that lined up are the measurement of who we are. They're a reflection of us. There's an African proverb that says that if the village does not initiate its youth, the youth will burn that village down to feel its warmth, and they should. If you mentioned, you opened up today with the conversation about the policymakers that created these conditions. Our young people did not create the conditions here in East Stockton, South Stockton. These were created. We have to rupture systems. The more that systems are involved in our young people's lives, including the incarceration, the incarcerate state, where's the investment been going? We talked about CSU Stockton. The reality is that most of the public dollars have gone into prisons. Right? This is Prison Alley, the backbone of California, which is 99 corridors full of prisons. And we have the Department of Juvenile Justice, young people right now that have Legionnaire's disease that are bathing in that water right now. This is to me, the youth are the truth. When they got up here and they speak, the way they speak, I'm just super proud of them. And we're teaching them how to be not just activists, but how to rupture systems. The more impacts, the more that our young people are in these systems, the worse off the conditions are or the outcomes are for our young people. So that's number one. It costs over $200,000 to incarcerate a young person for 1 year. $10,000-$15,000 to educate a young person, but we have actually invested more money in incarcerating our youth population. And we're at the lowest levels of youth actual crime and youth incarceration, but you don't see that investment going right back into the community, and those investments are a reflection of our values. If we really loved our youth, then we wouldn't have to be talking about where's the money going to support our young people. So I think that we can't just, to really unpack this idea of crime, I think it's kind of code sometimes, because we're talking about young people, like my sister said, we're talking about liberating our young people, about loving our young people. That's the best crime-solving strategy we can have. Police react to crime. They don't prevent it. What prevents it is us actually engaging with them in leadership opportunities, actually lifting up their voices and asking them, what do you want? How do you want to rock it? How do you want to get down? And actually, I think they could, not only could they lead in the future, they're leading it right now.
And Sammy, I'll tap in on the education front. Being an educator, not just in terms of like special programs, but having been an educator full-time in regular day classrooms, I talked to one of the young ladies who was on the panel and how she explained how like Franklin didn't service her. Franklin didn't provide her with the necessary things that she needed to be able to become successful, because so much of what was provided at this institution was awarded to those who are already excelling, as opposed to being able to benefit those who are in need of the assistance to be able to grow into all who they can be. Right. And what students recognize at a very young age, as young as kindergarten and first grade, is whether or not people are truly invested in their experience and their growth. And you get teachers in high school who complain about students who are not wanting to put in effort, but aren't looking at the root cause of the fact that these students have had teachers from grade school who have not invested, who have not taken the time. They have had administration who has been extremely absent outside of disciplinary action, and who have like our first interaction with discipline turns out to be from these principals, which inevitably turns us to not enjoy policing, because policing is the same thing as what we get with principals. Anyway, but as we look at what these schools do, they don't end up providing safe spaces for these students to learn, and they oftentimes tell us to leave our issues at the door when nobody ever leaves issues at the door. Right. If I am not eating, that means that I am not focused in class because my stomach is not full. Right. If I don't have functional water to be able to shower, I am now thinking about whether or not I smell in my classroom and am being made fun for it in my recess time, which does not encourage me to be there. And we have to be able to provide students with an ability to be able to process what goes on in their everyday lives, to then also be able to function inside of a classroom setting, which teachers are not often asked to do enough, and also are not equipped enough to do from the training that is required here in California to be able to do these things.
So all these social problems flow into our schools. How do you equip teachers or administrators to deal with them?
I think we should stop focusing on how much technology should not be in classrooms. I think too often teachers are focused on whether or not, are you on your cell phone during this time during class? It's like, instead of focusing on getting rid of things, focus on how you can implement them to be functional during these times. And then not only that, but invest in your actual class. Talk to your students. Instead of focusing so much, we had a student who came up here talking about, instead of just focusing on curriculum, I can tell you as an educator, that was all that was rammed down my throat. Are you sticking on pace to curriculum? Are you preparing these students for these tests that will come at the end of the year? And we're providing this world with illiterate people to how to actually function in an everyday society that requires them to create, not just constructively think, but creatively think, to be able to solve and deal with the world and its problems.
Okay, speaking of that, then I have a couple questions for the panel. Talking about the real world first, some years ago, the state of California abolished vocational education. Should everybody be on track to go to college, or should some people be learning trades?
I believe it's the student's choice.
That's right.
And should there be mentors in the schools to help them sort out which direction they might like to take, to apprise them of their options and match their skills? Or is the system inherently unfair enough to do that? Because that's why vocational education was abolished in the first place.
I'm gonna speak to that, and I want to reiterate Brandon's point that it should be the young person's choice, but just like in anything else, when our young people are in school, they don't really care how much people know until they know that those people care. So when you're asking, should there be mentors in school, there should be people in school building those relationships with them, people that they can trust and go to, who know where the resources are, who can help them to navigate a system that's really not designed to help them while we try to fix that broken system. So it needs to be their choice, but there needs to be someone there that they feel that they have a relationship with, if they are in that situation that they need to be guided. We should not, feel like we need to create a caste system and decide you can go to college and you cannot, but we should at the same time make sure that those young people have someone that they feel like they can trust, who can make sure that they have all those options available to them.
Yeah, we want to be sensitive to what you said about the caste system. On the other hand, I know a lot of people my age who are retiring as electricians and other forms of contractors, and they can't sell their business. Because when California abolished vocational education, they didn't train another generation of electricians and other tradespeople. The people that you look for in the phone book or those online lists to come over and do absolutely important stuff for your house. They're struggling to fill the ranks of those anymore. So I think if you could take I don't want to say racism, but yeah, it was that too, the caste system out, and realize that some people are smart with their heads and some people are smart with their hands. I don't know if I'm smart with either, but I know I'm not smart with my hands. I should never have gone into voc ed. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you make a good point that we need to make sure that those options are available. And so when you say there's systematic things and there's implicit bias in things, and our kids get directed and told, you should go to junior college even if they do qualify to go to college, or you're doing okay, you're going to pass. Well, D is passing.
I don't think being a lawyer is really for you.
Right,
yeah.
There's all of that. And so at the same time, I hear what you're saying. When we talk about having mentors and people they trust and things that we can expose them to in our schools, the adults that are sitting here, we know the system is broken, and our young people know the system is broken as well. And that's why we create so many opportunities for them to lead for themselves and really showing them how to discover the opportunities that they want. And so if they want to go that route, we want them to go that route, but it's not up to us to push them that route.
Sure.
So I hear your point in regards to people not being able to sell their business and career technical education
and to
being
the trades,
taken out.
Trades are honorable. Trades are honorable occupations.
Right.
And you can make a good living. So they're not to be looked down on.
We're not doing that. Well, I'm going to speak for Sow a Seed. We don't look down on the trades. We make sure that our young people are connected to as many opportunities as possible through our organizations, including the trades. And we bring those people in. So
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
But no, on my end, I think the one of the main reasons why that inevitably ended up happening was because of the racism behind the legislation behind that, was the idea that we ended up pushing minority people into positions where they could no longer become entrepreneurial concepts, but instead they were forced to become employees under these guidelines of what was happening. And now what's happening is we have the same thing occurring just in different ways, as we talked about with like junior colleges versus going to four-year universities. We see it in the redlining of districts and how taxes are funded. I mean, if you look at Lincoln Unified School District at all, it's an extremely racist concept to have in our city just in general, that this entire district contains about like 80% of our wealth in the town. But anyway, as we talk about these ideas and constructs about like encouraging youth to be able to take vocational jobs, it is extremely valuable because we don't have enough plumbers and electricians. We don't have enough people filling in these positions to be mechanics. And if that is a true desire of yours, then pursue after it. Chase it. Like, don't let the world define what your success will be. But also at the same time, if your success is found inside of a classroom in terms of becoming a biologist, a theologian, whatever you elect to be, then choose that for yourself. And it's up for us as an institution to be able to provide all resources for that. So I would agree that we need to have more vocational studies, but not at the sacrifice of providing what we already provide to the students and increasing what we provide for students in terms of literacy and especially STEM, being able to provide students to be able to grow in the technology world, because soon that's going to be what ends up ruling all of our jobs anyway.
I'd like to respond to something that you said. I don't disagree exactly, but you had said that the Lincoln Unified is kind of a racist by design school district. I'd like to remark on that. It's often said that there's there's a North Stockton and there's a South Stockton, and that there's an economic stratification between those two. That's not accurate. Stockton is actually divided into 4 quadrants. The northeast quadrant, the 1/4 of Stockton that's up there in the northeast, has all the diplomas, has all the expendable income, like you said, has all the wealth. Any school district drawn in that northwest quadrant is going to have a higher median income than the rest of the town. Now, the northeast quadrant, as well as the 2 quadrants in South Stockton, are also economically disadvantaged. One of the reasons that I keep harping on a California State University Stockton is so that the rest of that other parts of Stockton have the diplomas as well, so that the wealth is not all concentrated in the northwest quadrant, but spread throughout the city. and that opportunity and the opportunity for high-paying 21st century jobs is available to everybody in every part of Stockton, and that the wealth and therefore the power is not just cloistered in this one part of town. Anyway, agree or disagree? Panelists?
I want to take it back to crime because the crime that hasn't been addressed is really the crime that has been put upon our city, and why our city is the way it is the way rich developers have divided our city to ensure that certain communities won't have the same resources than others. And we've seen this through, of course, redlining, the creation of communities that have their own school districts, which means that those developers actually profit by ensuring that Stockton Unified never be the best district in our community. Why do we have Manteca Unified in Stockton? Why do we have Lodi Unified in Stockton? Why do we have Lincoln Unified in Stockton? When you don't see Stockton Unified in Lodi, right? And so if you build two houses and you build one house, and they're exactly the same, you build one house in the SUSD district, and then you build one house in Lincoln Unified district, Lincoln Unified is going to have a higher property value, right? And so we've segregated ourselves in this way, or at least developers have done that, and they profited from it. They profited by making sure our community is the way it is. And so if we're going to be talking about crime, for us, from our perspective, crime, we are victims of crime in that for the cultures that have been created by the segregation of our community, crime, sadly, is an option for folks in our community. But overwhelmingly, if given the proper resources, with equitable solutions, with true healing from this real trauma that exists, the fact that the richest people in our community have gotten rich by dividing the city exactly the way it is, and that these people still haven't been reined in, right? Right? Nor are they reinvesting their dollars, these dollars that they've made by creating the community that we have, back into South Stockton, right? In a way that you've seen other philanthropy has done that, and the fact that San Joaquin Community Foundation hasn't been historically investing in equitable solutions in Stockton is really the real crime that exists in our community. I think that's what we're really talking about today. And so I think what Little Manila does is, through ethnic studies, we provide the context of history that has not been taught. We think on purpose, because these are the stories of our families. These are the stories of how we've been marginalized, right? Whether it be as people of color, well, of course, as people of color. And history, has just, it's there. It's just historical fact. We are nowhere close to creating equitable solutions in our community. And I think what the difference that you're seeing in our community now is that we are trying like crazy to bring those equitable solutions. And the biggest threat to that are folks who say, oh, it needs to be good for everyone in our community. When the simple truth is, many of our people, whether it be because of redlining, because of colonization, because of slavery, all these things add up to who we are today. And there's a lot that we have to do. But really, everyone has to play a role in bringing equitable solutions.
So Dylan, or any panelist, have you read Stockton's General Plan 2040, and do you think that it addresses these geographic inequities, or do you think it perpetuates them? Are we moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
I think regarding downtown redevelopment, it's sorely needed. Sorely needed, right? Obviously, it's always been...
Dylan, I asked you a question and now I'm interrupting, so I apologize. Sure. But let me just give the panel this background and you this background. The General Plan 2040, the plan for the city, the blueprint for the city between now and then, is a departure from general plans of the past. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's different. And the way that it's different is that it's all about something called infill. It does not allow sprawl, except for the sprawl, and there's lots of it, that was already approved by previous councils. It draws a line at 8 Mile Road, and says we're not going to grow beyond there unless there's an extraordinary job generator, like a Tesla plant or a CSU Stockton. It requires 14,000 housing units to be built within the city limits and focuses more on the health of existing neighborhoods and the downtown area. So, Dylan, with that background, what's your perspective on the general plan?
Sure. Well, back in 2003, Little Manila Rising was the only, well, no, it was one of the groups that successfully stopped the demolition. You know, at the height, Stockton was the fastest growing city in America at the time. And basically, the city of Stockton had given the keys to the city to the developers, and that's where sprawl development got created. Of course, the majority of that being school districts not of Stockton Unified. And I think our mantra has always been it really speaks to the culture of our community, right? Like, when I talk about redevelopment and the fact that the richest people in our community got rich by creating the community that is they created this culture of upward mobility, meaning that to be successful in Stockton, you have to buy into someone else's community. You have to buy into that community so that, you know, whatever it be, Spanos and group, you get rich, right? But rather, we think what's more important is building community. And that's what stranglehold. We've never had a lack of amazing people in South Stockton, right? But if your marketing has always been move into our community, which happens to be on the north side, and that's how you become successful in Stockton, well, then that's why you have that huge brain drain. We have amazing people, but we haven't had the ability for our own people to say, let's build our own community, the place where our parents live, our aunties and uncles live, our grandparents live, rather than just, moving up north and then taking them out of there. We really need to build community rather than buy in community. And I think that's what the general plan can do. I think it can go further to make that happen, but I think it's a good start.
Yeah, I'm Daryl Rutherford, and I think general plans are good ideas to have in the community, and I appreciate the direction that this city is focused on the infill and wanting to reinvest back into the communities that have already been built. But I think I also need to throw out a word of caution to the leaders as they go through to develop these plans and push for further development, that they're going to do development without displacement. And displacement of the longtime residents that have built their lives and cultures and families in these communities. Also the small businesses, the mom and pop shops that make downtown thriving right now. I mean, I love walking around and going to all the mom and pop restaurants and stores. I like to go to the guy who shines the shoes downtown. I mean, it's like those are types of things that also need to be protected as development is going in. We also need to think about how we're going to create more affordable homes for people to live in as redevelopment does take place, because this community has the potential of being attacked by gentrification. And if that happens and we're doing it without the right policies in place, then the people who have lived here that have built this community will no longer be able to benefit from the redevelopment that does take place with the grocery stores coming in, places to shop for clothes and retail, other amenities that we all need to thrive on.
So the right policies in your view of gentrification is if a neighborhood is going to be revived, or like a district like downtown, is don't displace people.
Don't displace it. Let's think about how can we incorporate an inclusionary housing policy, which would require for every market rate unit being built that you're also building an affordable home. Talk about creating an affordable housing trust fund that could be used in multiple ways to reinvest back into the communities to build the affordable homes that are needed, but then also develop the programs within that can reinvest back into the neighborhoods that need some investments in it, that need sidewalks, that need the homes rehab, so that families are living in a healthy environment. There are a number of things that this city needs to be doing in order to address this issue over the next 20 years or so around this general plan, and we need the leaders to step up and really put some progressive policies in place that will protect the folks living here.
Fred Shield, you work in this area. Any thoughts to to keep it grounded, how hard is it to build affordable housing in Stockton, and how does that affect the youth of the city?
Well, it's supposed to be the number one priority of the city right now, creating housing for the homeless and doing affordable housing and infill housing. As one of the few guys doing this in the city, I don't see that it's number one priority. The council has said it is, but the reality of doing it and working with city staff, it is extremely difficult. It's roadblock after roadblock, and I'm about done working in the city. I'm going to do my work in the county. I'm going to put up affordable units in the county because I can work with them. But the city staff has made it so insanely difficult.
And what needs to change?
I'll leave that up to the rest of you to figure that out because it's a complete mystery to me. How it can be declared number one and how it can be such a problem.
Thank you for your honesty.
And the general plan is, I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful process. I went to probably 3/4 of the community meetings that were held down there, all over the city. And everybody, poor neighborhood, rich neighborhood, white neighborhood, brown neighborhood, everybody said the number one priority is to fix these older neighborhoods. We can't bring people in the city and sell them on Brookside, and then they go drive around on their own, and they're looking at our mess on the east side and go, I'm not going to invest in this city. Why? Because it's obvious to me that you're going to do the same thing to us once I come in that you've done to other parts of this city. You get us in, and then you ignore us. The south, the east side, the downtown, there's pockets in the north, have been just left on their own and ignored and fought and told to fight for yourself.
And how does that impact the youth?
Slightly off the subject, but not. I like the gentleman who was talking about dealing with the Stockton police officers downtown. I have been on the Chief's Citizen Advisory Board for 5-6 years now. Chief and the top management, I think, are doing a fantastic job. The problem is they're hiring brand new officers, and kids on the street down there, those officers are more scared of you than you're scared of them. These are kids coming out of kids, and they're not much older than you. They're coming out of rural neighborhoods, suburban neighborhoods. They have no clue about where you're coming from, what your brown culture is, what your black culture is, how you function. It takes them. I've had one of those police officers, I asked him, and he's a minority himself. How long does it take the average officer to be comfortable, to understand the culture of dealing with everybody they deal with on a daily basis? 12 years before they even begin to grasp it. So I'm trying to figure out, the unions have created the process within law enforcement. You have to go through all these background checks and aptitude tests and everything else, and it just seems to completely weed out the kids that are coming from our poor neighborhoods that have the street skills and smarts to know how to be good police officers. So let's figure that out. The department is willing. Tell me who's ready, and let's get you going.
That's a good point, Fred. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'd like to suggest there's one reason why we don't get the police officers that this community, and I'm not putting down the Stockton Police Department. I really respect the chief and what he's doing, and I know there's many admirable people in the police department, but Stockton can't pay police as much as other communities can. And so when they made the police salaries sustainable during Stockton's bankruptcy, that is, salaries that weren't going to drive us back into the poorhouse, there was something called the exodus. And that is, a huge number of Stockton police officers just left the force to go to usually more affluent coastal communities where they would get wages, better wages and benefits. I'm not blaming them. I mean, they have lives, they have families, they have to make their own choices. But once again, it comes back to what? The economy. If we had a bigger tax base, we'd have more police, we'd have better policing, And how do we get a better tax base, a better economy? Well, California State University, Stockton. All right.
I believe Nick had something to say.
Can I?
I was highlighting you.
Okay, thank you. There's another way, and that's revenue. And I'm a big Prince fan. A lot of people know this. And I went to...
Me too.
Are you? Oh, didn't know that.
Best show I ever saw.
Went to Minneapolis after Prince passed away to see the Revolution perform. I can't think of the venue now. And the friends that were local folks, we all went and had dinner before the concert, as you often do. And we were discussing how Minneapolis became what it is. And what happened was they valued the arts. And they passed a tax that required every single student to learn an art form. And many of them, including Prince and his friends, picked up instruments. Now you look at the millions and millions of dollars, and by the way, all of these artists stayed in Minneapolis. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Prince, all generating millions in revenue for this one community. And I see the hip-hop culture that is just raw and beautiful in this city, and I don't see why we can't do something similar.
Let me ask you, educators on the panel, are the inner city schools music programs, are they funded, or have they defunded the music programs?
They're woefully funded at best. I would like to pose a question to the young people in the audience. By show of hands, how many of you know somebody that's in the studio working on a project?
Number of hands went up.
Yeah. How many of you know an aspiring rapper or an MC?
Again, even more hands.
To be a rapper or an MC means you have to have a facility with language. I always tell the rappers that come into our program, Mama T, I don't know if I can be a poet. Well, basically, if you take the beats away from a rapper, you got a lyricist. And a lyricist is simply a synonym for a poet. And everybody has equal access to this microphone. This is an art and a trade in and of itself. And all of this is woefully unacknowledged and unrecognized and not lifted up enough and not funded enough and not appreciated enough in our schools and in our community.
For every dollar spent, $4 comes back in revenue.
Right?
That's something that can be addressed to the school board, right? I mean, shouldn't we not be going to the school board and telling them, look, we want some of the budget to be directed to inner city music programs?
We not only want to address it at the school board level, but we also have to put the onus back into the community. Are we providing platforms for when these kids do these things, when they create these magnificent arts projects? Where are we showcasing them? Mm-hmm. Are we putting them in their own little academic gulags and only segregating them to a Franklin or to a Chavez or to an SCI? But are we actually putting them into the community and lifting them up so that we can see the fruits of this kind of labor and the return on that potential investment?
So perhaps the city could have some kind of festival celebrating the musical arts, the youth musical arts.
Or the city and the county can kick down some tax revenue to go towards funding arts.
Thought that's what we did with Measure M.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes, panel, before we take the questions. I would like to throw it open to anybody that would like to talk on any subject.
I just want to. Anthony Rodriguez, I'm here representing Summer Success and Leadership Academy. Runs at University of Pacific every summer. They're going on our 10th year now. But I just want to kind of just support what everybody's been saying with our youth. I'm in the classroom 180 days out of the year. I'm there, even if I'm sick, just because of the things my youth feel and the things that they go through every day and the things that they encounter in their neighborhoods. I teach at Marshall Elementary here in Stockton Unified, so I'm right in the heart of it. And I think one of the things that I can really say in regards to like our students and like something that they need is they need to be connected to all these people. They need to be exposed to everything that these people do on this panel. They need to understand the choices that are out there for them and the things that are available to them in the community. But not only that, but also how the community feels about them and what the community wants them to achieve as well. So I'm looking at this panel now, and I've already seen three people on this panel. Three people on this panel visited my classroom this week and spoke to my children. Jasmine, Mama T, and then I had fathers and families in my classroom this week, just speaking to my students, talking to them about the options and the things that are available to them in the community and the resources. You know, these, as a teacher, as an educator, that's what I am. I'm a teacher. I'm not Stockton's poet laureate. I'm not a servant leader. I'm not a rapper. I'm not any of those things, but I know people I can connect my students to who can open up their resources to our kids, that can open up their heart. I'm playing with it. I'm messing with it. That's my fault. But I think that's one of the things that really is missing from our classrooms, is that our teachers are so focused on their qualifications, you know, and we're not focused on we're qualified, but are we truly qualified? You know, I'm not qualified to inform them about, you know, getting involved with our words. I'm not qualified to, you know, just speak to them about how do I get involved in the studio. I have no idea, but maybe Tama knows.
So you're advocating partnerships.
Yeah, Tama. I know you are. You're going to get me. I said it this week too. She got me this week. Okay, so I'm gonna pass the mic. Thank you.
Right, Jasmine? I'm going to start off with Fannie Lou Hamer. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And let me just first off and start off, because what we didn't do today was recognize the people on this stolen land from the Yorkit tribe and our indigenous people who have had this city continuously never recognize the people who have been on this land forever. And another thing is, I don't know how we got to this conversation, but let me bring it back. First of all, let me acknowledge all the young people. I'm actually my emotions are very high in anxiety just because of the way this has been handled today. And I just want to acknowledge our young people for just the work you've been able to do. And I wish you were able to share more about how you've gone to this place and how you were able to really do this work and what it means for you to sacrifice every single day to wake up and to be able to show up in your classrooms when things in your schools are happening. Again, excuse my voice if it's shaken. I'm just almost angry. And so let me just also acknowledge that let us not forget where we have been, and let us not forget about the work we have done, because we have done so much work. And let us not sit here in vain saying that we haven't done anything, or what are we going to, it is not our job. Those people who are in office and we elected them, those people who work for the city are there to do their job. It is not, we are here to also provide input and stuff, but they are being paid to be able to come up with these resources and figure out what they need to do to make that happen. On our end, we are working with our people, doing everything we can to be able to fight for what is needed for us. We have come a long way. We started building coalitions. We brought people back together. We have spent hours, countless hours at night, meeting with parents, meeting with students, walking the street, knocking door to door with people about what is happening in our communities and how do we really show up for our people. We've been working with young people to really elevate and cultivate their voices, because these young people didn't have no one here years ago talking about, issues they were going through. Our young people were being locked up or killed or dead. Yeah. In 2010, we had one of the highest rates of homicide rates, 2011, 2012, and 10 of those people being one of close friends to me. And when we talk about what this work really means to us, we must recognize the pain, the sacrifice, the trauma that has been put into our communities. And we can't have these conversations about what we're having until we acknowledge where we're at and where we've been. And I think we need to give ourselves a round of applause for what we've been able to do, because it is not our job to fix what has been happening to us. And another thing is that the system is operating exactly how it's supposed to be operating because it wasn't made for us. And that's us as in people of color. The system is working exactly how it's supposed to be working because it was never created and designed for us. And what we also need to recognize is that we have been advocating at school boards. We've been going to school districts for decades talking about the need for access to counselors, the need to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline, the need for restorative justice in our schools, the need for ethnic studies, the need for additional teachers, lower classrooms, more pay for teachers, more salary to folks to be able to show up in our class. We have been doing that fight for years, and we are continuously to do this fight for years. And what we must acknowledge is that we're in a different place where we were back from 2012, 2013. Yes, we are facing some hard times here in Stockton this year, but what we need to recognize is that the work continues, the marathon continues, and we continue to do this work with our people who are doing this work. And I want us not to forget about the work that has been happening. We've been doing so much work on the grounds. We are spending countless hours. Like I said, we are doing things that people should be doing, the county should be paying for, the city should be paying for. We are fighting hours, unpaid, to be able to find grants for our young people. We're cleaning up parks that we don't even need to be cleaning up because the city should be doing that. We're spending our own recreational time to build a beloved community that we imagine and desire to see because, one, we know what it's like to show up in a community, and we know how to be in community, and we know how to love one another. But I'm just saying, today, what we need to recognize is that we have come a long way, and we're coming here to talk about the state of where our young people is, right? Years ago, young people didn't have a voice at the table. Young people today in our organizations and in the work we're doing is they are being able to have a seat at the table. They are on this stage, and they are telling us the way to go. Because if we really want to know where to go, ask our young people because they know where to go.
Thank you. Another question from the audience. How do you break the school-to-prison pipeline?
Ooh. Ooh. You got to tell them. You got to inform your kids. Your kids need to know the truth. You can't beat around the bush no more. You know, my thing with my students is I sit them down and I let them know the truth right when they walk through my classroom. I don't bull crap with them. That's right. I like that. The first lesson they hear when they walk through my door is the rose that grew from concrete, and they understand what it means, why he wrote it, why Tupac. I'm gonna say his name. Why Tupac wrote it the way he did. What's embedded within all those words, and I help my students realize that he was talking about them. But we get deeper into that, and I actually use a article of yours, Mr. Fitzgerald, the nihilism article that you wrote. When Mr. Tubbs was what was her name? Anna DeVry, is that how you say it? Devier Smith. Thank you so much. We use her article and we break it down and we talk about that nihilistic mindset and what it means to grow up in a community that has that mindset and how that affects them. What it means to live in that, and seeing my kids come to reality with that is scary. It's a scary thing because you have to bring them back because it really beats them down. It's a beat down. You have to be honest with them, though, that this is real. This is what it is. This is why y'all are dying. This is why you feel that way when you go home. This is why you feel this way when you show up to my classroom, when you show up to the school, when you walk down the halls, when you sit down in that class, when you do this, when somebody's yelling at you, kicking you out of class, sending you to the office multiple times, why you see that little second grader walking around the school all day long. Look it in the face now. Understand it. Now let's come to reality. Because you are somebody in this community. You have an identity. You have somebody that you are destined to be. Let's bring it back. Let's connect you with many different people in the community that want the same things for you, that look like you, that want you to grow into something more than what your community is teaching you. And that it's it's like I said, it's a scary thing to see, and it's a scary thing to be around. But at the end of it all, at the end of this past week that I had at my classroom, I'm able to open up their eyes to the world and open up their eyes to the many different people that I can connect you with, and that this resource is always going to be here for you. You have a hub, a place you can come to get any help that you need. I was yelling at one of my students when I first got here because his grades are not where they need to be. But and I let him know that, dude, you got to let me know this now. You got to come over. Marshall is your hub. Understand that. If you ain't going to get it at Edison, come over to Marshall. My door is always open. They don't have those resources everywhere. That's not available to them everywhere. Our teachers aren't informing our kids of the truth. And it's really scary that's happening. But I'd much rather have my kid be knocked down, me build them back up, send them off to Edison, send them off to Franklin, and know that those values and those things that I have taught them are instilled into their mind. And that they know that these things are available. They know that it's their choice. I can't hold your hand. Jasmine can't hold your hand. We can't hold your hand as you walk through high school and make these choices. But I can inform you of these choices. I can inform you of what's going on. You have to look it into the eyes, and you have to make the choice of what you're going to do.
May I just chime in on that one right there in terms of dismantling the school-to-prison pipeline? And as my brother Dylan would say, creating a school-to-social justice pipeline so our young people can be revolutionaries, because loving yourself in a society that teaches you to hate yourself is a revolutionary act, and we're teaching our young people how to love themselves. We love them until they learn how to love themselves because they've been lied to. And telling them the truth is radical, right? Being honest is radical nowadays. So, you mentioned the roads that rule from concrete. Some folks don't know that poem. I think it's worth repeating the poem. People ask why young men have gone from bad to worse, why they have little regard for human life. To ask why is to deny that from which they came from. You see, you wouldn't ask why the roads that grew from concrete had damaged petals. On the contrary, we would all celebrate its tenacity. We would all love its will to reach the sun. We are the roses. This is the concrete, and these are my damaged petals. Don't ask me why. Thank God. Ask me how. How many people love young people? How many people love the Stockton youth in here? How many people love Stockton youth in here? How many Stockton youth know that they are loved? How many Stockton youth know that they are loved? What we got to do is we need to be all in. We need to be all in with our young people. Ride or die with our young people. We're going to show up for our young people. We're going to tell them that they're a irreplaceable special gift to us. That's what they need to hear repeatedly. And the only way we can do that is by showing up and being all in. Go ahead.
That's right.
Stockton. 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 Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. As one. As one. As one. That's how we dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline and make sure our babies have the best of the best that they have not been afforded up until now. That's why we stand in the margins with them.
Thank you. Let's have a big hand for our panel. There is some real passion there. Panel, I'd like to thank you so much for your passion and your commitment to Stockton. It is an honor to stand on the stage with people who are making a difference as you do with the most important people in the world, the youth of Stockton. Thank you so much. Let's have another hand for them, please.
Take a selfie.
You're listening to Voices of the Community, which explores critical issues facing Northern California communities. This is George Coster, your host, and if you're just joining us, in this episode we're discussing the reinvention of the City of Stockton, California at our State of Our Youth, a Stockton Townhall Meeting. We've been listening to the voices of the nonprofit Social Justice All-Star Collaborative with Nicholas Hatten, the founder and executive director of the San Joaquin Pride Center, Sammy Nunez, the Executive Director of Fathers and Families of San Joaquin, Fred Schell, the the administrator of STAN, Dylan Delvo, the executive director of Little Manila Rising, Jasmine Delafosse, one of the founding members of the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, Anthony Rodriguez, former mentor, leadership development coordinator at the Summer Success and Leadership Academy, Daryl Rutherford, the new executive director of the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, Tama Brisbane, the founder of With Our Words, Brandon Leake, the founder of Call to Move, and Rhodesia Ransom, the executive director of Sow a Seed Community Foundation, along with the community, engaging with community leaders to develop solutions for the ongoing issues facing the reinvention of the City of Stockton. One of the outcomes from the nonprofit Social Justice All-Star Collaborative's work with the San Joaquin County Youth Council is the development of a youth manifesto. The manifesto is a collective, groundbreaking pledge towards equity and resilience for Stockton's area's youth. Let's get back to the show to hear Tama Brisbane present the manifesto with youth leaders.
So let's get into another part of our program, scheduled and important. We're gathered because we're talking about the state of our youth. Yet another gathering. This is not an unfamiliar concept. This is not something we haven't seen before. Grown-ups have been gathering in Stockton to talk about youth for decades. Too often. Not often enough do we create platforms for youth to speak for themselves. Today you saw an example of what it looks like and what it sounds like for empowered, informed youth to speak for themselves. If we replicate that, we will lessen the need for grown-ups to continue to gather to talk about youth. Just a point. What we are about to hear from next is a shift in the paradigm, a change in the horizon, the earth feeling differently under our feet, because for the last 18 months, a group of organizations dedicated to the empowerment, acknowledgement, and elevation of youth and their voices has been working tirelessly, not just to create another plan, because if you're a grown-up in this city and you've been active in youth in any capacity, you've been in a room with butcher block paper going up on the walls, and we write things down, and then we roll up the butcher block paper, and we never see it or hear about it again. This ain't that day. Today we are going to be talking about what happens when action comes out of conversation, when a plan comes out of conversation, and when a plan comes with intent and with follow-up and with steps that can be accomplished and data that can be measured. It's called a manifesto. It's a big old SAT word, meaning we about to get some stuff done. This manifesto can best be explained by two of the driving forces behind it. And we'll show you what happens when people come together across generations, across color, across culture, across ethnicities, across accomplishments, across communities. Best personified by the founder and executive director of Fathers and Families, my brother Sammy Nunez, and also by our city council person from the city of Tracy and the founder of Sow a Seed, soon to be advancing to yet another elected office. Please welcome Miss Rhodesia Ransom.
All right. So as you see, the theme for the day, it's the state of our youth. We're standing here, but it's not about us being here as the organizations and the adults. really we're here because we want to give our youth an opportunity to be helped and to be heard. And then we also want to be accountable as those who run these organizations, who run Fathers and Families, who run the Pride Center, who run Little Manila, who tell our young people that this is a place where you can come, that it's about you, that you'll be safe here, that you'll be helped here, that we'll deal with your trauma, and that we will protect you from the system that was not designed for you. And so what the manifesto is about, it's us coming together with the stories of our youth, with the pain of our youth, with the triumphs of our youth, and really putting pen to paper to say, what does it mean for them to be resilient? What does it mean for them to be protected? What does it mean for them to have a way, no matter what their zip code is, no matter what their experiences are in this community, how do we connect them? And then how do we, not just today, as Ms. Thama mentioned, roll up the butcher paper, but how do we put pen to paper and then follow through? And we've taken a lot of time, and we had to check ourselves. We had to stop midway and go, wait, where are the young people? Because we were bringing your stories into our boardroom, but you weren't there. And so our manifesto is about bringing the young people along with us as we move to change the stories of Stockton. I'm not from Stockton. I've had the pleasure of working in Stockton because the organization Sow a Seed works in the schools. And I'll be honest, when I came here, I said, we've been doing this work all over the place. They invited us to Stockton. And I'll tell you, the stories of Stockton are different than the stories of Tracy, the stories of Manteca. And I had to step back and really trust the people that I work with here in this community, because I can't come and tell you how to solve your problems, but I can show you where the system will fail you, and I can work with you to change those systems. And so our manifesto is about changing systems. Our manifesto is about educating you and giving you the game about how the system works so that you don't fall in the traps of the system. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Sammy says all of this way better than I do. But the one thing that Sammy says all the time, and it's true for young people, it's true for adults, it's nothing about us without us. And the Youth Manifesto is about you, and we're going to do that with you. We're going to deliver that with you. And it's really about working to help change the trajectory and to really make an investment, not just with our words, no pun intended, Mama Tama, not just with our words, but with our actions. And so that's what our manifesto, the Youth Manifesto, is all about.
First of all, can we just hear it for Miss Rhodesia Ransom? This sister right here, she's amazing. I love her tremendously. But I'm going to tell you, we've had conflict. We've had conflict in our group, but I love these people, Dylan and Nicholas and Daryl and Jasmine and all those folks that have participated, because you know what? We show up and we show love. And that's the most important thing. This is our strategic plan for Praxis, and it's really a plan for the future of Stockton. And I think that one of the things that I know for sure is this. One of the things I know is for sure is this. Is that my baby, my, she needs to know that these young people that are just in front of her are actually getting prepared, right? So that way she can come up behind and have a pipeline into higher education and the social justice and movement building, right? That she doesn't have to worry. We don't have to worry about her being outside, playing outside. We don't have to worry about the water she's drinking or the air she's breathing. That we really are like healing up our community. Right, and it begins with our young people. One of the young people once said, I said, man, y'all got to get along. I said, you first. Right? Our kids are a mere reflection of the adults that surround them. I'm proud of the kids that hang around me because I'm like, hey, y'all make me look good. But that's the truth, though. They don't come like, they come with struggle. They come with pain. They come with a lot of cargas, but they have so many gifts. And this is what our gift is to our young people and our future posterity of Stockton, is a plan that I think if it's executed to the way we created it and crafted it, with the love and the thoughtfulness and the care that we put into our young people, then I think our future is going to be bright. The best days of Stockton are in front of us, not behind us. And so we spend countless hours working on this, having breakfast burritos and really because, you have to have a progressive vision. And these are the organizations that you can bank on that'll show up. for our community, without a doubt. So I don't have really much else to say. We're gonna disseminate it. It's your manifesto. It's not ours. It's for the people. This is what the people, I think, need to actually get their hands on and start to study, so that way we can see the future clearly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, panelists. Well, we're running over time, so we pretty much have to get to the closing. So I'd like to share a couple thoughts with you, and the subject may surprise you. I want to talk to you about Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's original members all met at a school of architecture in London, England. They were all studying to be architects, but for a lark, they formed a band. They started playing gigs, and lo and behold, a record company offered them a contract. So the members of Pink Floyd went home, and the drummer, Nick Mason, later told this story. He said, "Dad, we're going to drop out of architecture school, and we're going to try to make it as a rock and roll band." And the father said, and I quote, "You are not dropping out." He thundered, "You are staying in school, because I guarantee you this music thing is going nowhere." Pink Floyd went on to become one of the most commercially successful bands of all time. Dark Side of the Moon was on the Billboard chart for 14 years. It sold more than 45 million copies. And overall, they've sold something like 250 million copies worldwide. The moral of this story comes right back to Stockton. It has to do with inventing a new future. Most people invent their future out of their past. That's what Stockton's leaders did for years, even as the world changed around them and even as Stockton fell behind. I know a lot of the people in City Hall. They're good people, but most of them are risk averse. They're like that Pink Floyd father. They think what they're preaching is the best, but it's not fair, and it's a recipe for mediocrity. We don't need to be chained by the bad ideas of yesterday. We can envision a better city, a safe, prosperous, poppin' city, and make it a reality. But here's the thing, and you may have gotten this from the panel. The cavalry isn't coming. City Hall, state government, Uncle Sam, they can help, but they can't do the job. It's our job. It's your job. We have to do it ourselves. I hope today the town hall shows you that we can do it, and we are doing it. So get out and get involved in your community. There's a great city out there just waiting for you to find it. Thank you. Thank you.
Being born and raised in Southside Stockton, I can most certainly discuss all of the issues in which we've talked about here. From our poor, low-income, oftentimes minority communities being ravaged with drugs and alcohol due to what zones are allowed to be able to have grocery stores and things of that nature, to over-policing, to lack of funding in schools and things to that nature. But I think one of the most beautiful things that we can talk about today as well is exactly what Jasmine was talking about, is the fact that we have really grown and progressed so much from where we once were and who we are continuing to become. And so I have a poem for you all today entitled Mudville. The reason why is because that is our city nickname, if you don't know that. And I think it's really fitting because so oftentimes people hate the mud, especially us, uppity adults. We hate to get dirty. We hate to get filthy. But if you look at any kid inside of a pile of mud, they are enjoying the time. They are loving it. And I think it's a reflection of the fact that we need to become more childlike in our demeanor. And the fact that we need to be able to look at the world from the optimistic lens of a child and say, how can we change it by any means necessary? And so here we go. This concrete assembly carries the weight of a great burden. The perceptions of the world versus the reality of who it is becoming. Isn't that the battle we all face in coming home? Constantly being viewed from a lens too old for a proper view. I believe this world's gaze of this place is askew. But that's okay. There's nothing but time and opportunity for us to lay waste to your blockades. This is the fight of a generation. Because progression cannot be boxed in and we ain't boxing. We no longer lay hands out of frustration now. We in prayer circles putting hands on folks in love we loving today. Showing the world our true colors, a gorgeous array of hues from the rugged south side of Crow Valley to the pristine west side of Brookside, from the disenfranchised east to the abundant north. We are no longer assimilating, but instead we shall shine our bright colors, electing to use what we have today to create a more beautiful tomorrow. We are fertile ground, nurturing to whomever chooses to embrace us. Just call us Mudville. And though freshly suited adults disdain the mud, we all love what sprouts from it. So let us reform our gaze to the mind's eye of a child, and when we do that, let's just wait and see. For this garden is coming into full bloom, and what a wonderful sight we shall be to marvel at, because Stockton is growing from the mud. Thank you.
That's it for this special live event, The State of Our Youth, a Stockton Townhall Meeting, long-form episode of Voices of the Community. You've been listening to the voices of community leaders from the nonprofit Social Justice All-Star Collaborative and the collaborative's San Joaquin County Youth Council, who are working together to reinvent their collective community narrative. Over these past 3 years, this documentary series, From Bankruptcy to Reinvention, the City of Stockton, has been a labor of love. The documentary series is a final tribute to my mother, Josephine Coster Wiley, who grew up in South Stockton and passed away during the production of the documentary series. I want to thank my associate producers, Eric Estrada and Nick McClendon, as well as advising producer Malcolm Cecil. Casey and Brian Nance from Citron Studios, who worked their magic to bring the website ideas to life. I also want to thank these wonderful Stockton partners. Mike Fitzgerald for being our wonderful master of ceremonies and facilitator. Gary, Greg, and the entire crew from G-Force Productions for all the audio-visual magic. Brittany and Adriana from KWDC for broadcasting the documentary series. Philip and the Fathers and Family crew for supporting the Town Hall Meeting on Facebook and social media. Pedro from Roadfinch for shooting our video, which will be available as part of our radio documentary series. Nicholas Hatten and his wonderful spirit and ongoing support through these almost 3 years of working on this project. The Social Justice All-Star Collaborative for helping us make the Town Hall event idea come to life. The San Joaquin County Youth Council for their participation and vision today. And of course, all of the wonderful voices of our community leaders who participated in the radio documentary series. Don't forget to go to georgecoster.com to listen to all 13 episodes of From Bankruptcy to Reinvention, the City of Stockton, California documentary series, as well as exploring both the voices and organizations featured in the series. Please check out the wonderful highlight video of the Town Hall event. We also will have a link to our YouTube channel with the entire unedited video of the Town Hall event. You can also listen to our archived past shows, which feature community voices working on solutions to critical issues facing Northern California communities. Please rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, and share the story with your friends. Follow us on Twitter @GeorgeCoster, and email us at george@georgecoster.com. I'm George Coster in San Francisco, and thank you for listening.